Welcome to Victorians Against Tyranny. In this video, I'll be speaking about how to challenge a fine using the Aussie Speeding Fines book. This book is not solely for speeding fines. It can be applied to many other unjust fines. I'll be using my personal dispute with Eastlink as an example. So to summarise briefly, I had an account with Linked, who were part of Eastlink, and it was a direct debit setup. I didn't want to do that anymore, so I requested for them just to send me a bill at the end of the month. Grudgingly, they agreed, and it was put in place. I got my first bill and noticed it was about $30 more than what was listed on my account. So I rang them up and asked them to explain the difference in amounts listed in my statement and the amount they were requesting me via email. Long story short, despite several attempts to get them to explain to me what the additional amount was for, they failed to do so. I then let them know that I would be using the roads and would be paying only when they could answer my initial question. Months went by and still my question hadn't been answered, but by this stage they were sending me all these amounts with additional fines. Really confusing situation. I then lodged a complaint with a tolling customer ombudsman, and a Mr. Philip Davies was assigned to the case, and he turned out to be the biggest waste of time I have ever experienced in my life. He pulled out halfway through the case with some BS excuse why he couldn't continue, and so I was left to fend for myself. I then decided to call Eastlink directly, not Linked, but Eastlink, and explain the situation. I requested for them to provide me with a breakdown of my usage fees and travel points and their penalty fees. They did so, and they said I had to pay all the penalty fees as well. They gave me an account number. I said I wouldn't be paying the penalty fees. I would be paying for the usage fees only. Checked out the usage fees. Everything seemed fine. I went to pay, and the account would not accept. It would only accept, the full amount they wanted. And the reason they do this is that if you have paid something, they can't continue with any kind of prosecution against you. So I decided to pay the usage amounts into the Linked account number I had, and it's all part of the same company. I let them know that the usage amounts had been paid into the Linked account. They didn't want to know about that. They said they needed the full amount with the additional fines paid into the Eastlink account, and if I didn't pay, they would be getting Victoria Police to basically force me to pay the amounts they want. So, true to their word, the corporation Eastlink, who, by the way, are owned by a company called Telex, and I'm not going to mention any names here, but if you guys want to look up who owns Telex, you will see that they are not a very, shall we put it, moral sort of group. That's all I can say. Anyway, 4 lots of $165 fines were sent to me by Vic Police on behalf of Eastlink. That totals $660. And for those of you who've seen the video where I walked into the police station and asked them whether they were private debt collectors for Eastlink, have a look at that if you haven't seen that, but it appears they are. Okay, so now what the hell do you do? Well, thankfully the Aussie Speeding Fines people have written this book, which includes a 3-step process on challenging a fine. It is a really excellent book. It speaks about the reality of what's really going on with fines, where the money goes. It's a great read. But anyway, let's get started. So the first thing we have to do is reject the fine. The Imperial Acts Application Act Section 8, Clause 12 states that all grants and promises of fines and forfeitures of particular persons before conviction are illegal and void. This act is enshrined in the state constitution of every state in Australia. This means that all fines are illegal because a person is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. No department has the lawful authority to issue penalties. Only a court can do so. You have the right to reject a fine. Now, this section is very important. This next step, you must do something about it, because if you don't do anything, you've actually accepted their terms and conditions. So failure to state your objection constitutes as acquiescence. Acquiescence means that you have legally accepted the fine. So a lot of people just don't do anything about it, and then it piles up, and then it gets to court, and they have to pay. And this is the thing, they don't tell you this though. So it's called acquiescence. Acquiescence means that you have legally accepted the fine. You should send the fine back with a notice of objection letter, which I'll speak about in a minute. So the first thing you do is take the fine, and you can write refused, all rights reserved. Then you send it back to them with the letter of objection. So the book provides template letters you can use, and you can modify and apply to your particular situation. He who maketh the claim bears the burden of proof. The one that makes the claim is obligated to verify the claim with sufficient evidence. Always ask for evidence. The first letter, notice of objection. The first letter that you send makes a point of not entering into an argument. What you are doing is objecting to the claim in relation to the infringement notice. You deny that they have a valid or lawful claim against you, and you request that they provide proof of any claim before you entertain any thoughts of paying any fine. It is your right to ask for it. Proof of claim is asked in the form of a sworn affidavit and documents supporting their claims within 28 days. So they have 28 days to provide you with this proof. If they fail to do this, then by default they have accepted your terms and conditions. The only way that police officer and Victoria Police cannot enter into this agreement with you is by supplying the sworn affidavit and its documents. So here's a letter of objection template which I've modified for my case. Take your time and have a read through it. As I said, this is all pre-written, and you can just modify it for your own cause. Now, in the next video, I'll be discussing the response. I can almost guarantee that they will not have responded to any of the questions in the letter. So stay tuned for part 2. Cheers, guys.